Calling the meeting to order. Apologies for the delay. Just one item before we go on to the next thing. We do want to notify the public that unfortunately school committee member Ryan Queenan is unfortunately unable to attend due to an emergency that came up. So for tonight, it will just be the four of us up here. And he's also said that it's okay for us to move forward, that it's no issue at all. So, next item, please.
Next item on the...
I'll take that one, sorry. The committee will convene into executive session in main office conference room pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws, Section 42, 46, subsection 4 and 5 for the purpose of discussing personnel pursuant to Rhode Island General Law, Section 42, subsection 46, 5A1, and to discuss school security and safety pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws, Section 42, 46, 5A3. And lastly on that, we will also consider and vote on a motion to adjourn and reconvene into open session. Is there a motion from the committee to convene into executive session?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All that say aye?
Aye.
Aye. Calling the meeting to session. Next item, please.
Reconvene. Next is Pledge of Allegiance and moment of silence.
I'd like to report that no votes were taken in executive session. I'll entertain a motion by the committee to seal the executive session minutes pursuant to the applicable provisions of Rhode Island General Law, Section 42, 46, 4, and 5. Is there a motion?
Make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All that say aye.
Aye.
The minutes are sealed. Next item, please.
Next item is student liaisons. Nathan Tavares, East Providence High School.
Good evening, everyone. At EPHS, the second semester has been moving strongly forward. Juniors and seniors were given information about prom in assemblies in late January. This year, students have advocated for 2 separate junior and senior proms. The junior prom will be held on Friday, May 10th at the Valley Country Club, while the senior prom will be held on Friday, May 17th at the Newport Marriott. Permission slips in the main office are available for all students interested in attending. Also, the prom dress giveaway is continuing this year and is looking for donations of new or gently used prom dresses, shoes, or suits for students. Some important deadlines are coming up for students and families. Yearbooks need to be purchased by this Thursday. No extra yearbooks will be sold at the end of the school year, so it is important to order soon. Cap and gown orders for seniors are due by Sunday, March 3rd. The CTC application process for current 8th graders and current freshmen is open until March 15th. Also, the Scholarship Foundation of East Providence is offering a generous scholarship to East Providence seniors. These applications are available in the guidance suite and must be submitted by March 15th. The class of 2025 has been busy fundraising over the past month. A fundraiser through SnapRaise is open and accepting donations. The link to this fundraiser can be found on Mr. Black's Townie News. Additionally, the junior class also held a fundraiser on Valentine's Day, selling carnations and cards during all lunches. There have been many students interested in parking at the high school in the last few months. With the student parking lot reaching capacity, EPHS is now offering students the opportunity to park at the Agawam Fields lot with bus transportation to and from the school. The annual band and chorus collaboration concert will be held on Thursday, March 7th, with 8th graders from both Martin and Riverside. Over the first semester, the EPHS chapter of the National Honor Society has been extremely successful. During October, roughly $200 was raised for breast cancer awareness. Through a month-long fundraiser, the NHS raised $500 for the Scholarship Foundation of East Providence and another $500 for patients at Hasbro Children's Hospital. Canned soup was also collected in the week leading up to the Super Bowl. About 230 cans were collected in total. The championship banquet for the girls' volleyball team was held on January 21st, and this year, East Providence is participating in 3 athletic co-ops during the winter season: gymnastics, as well as boys and girls ice hockey. Playoffs are in the process for most winter sports right now, and boys basketball is currently playing at Hendricken this evening. And with that, spring sports will begin on March 18th with registration currently in the process. That is all I have for you tonight. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Next is Megan Pita, Martin Middle School.
Good evening, all members of the school committee, Dr. Fran, Dr. Bowler, and Mrs. Corsi. I'm so pleased to be here this evening to share some highlights from Martin Middle School. A huge thank you to Mrs. Bouchain and the MMS PTA for putting together a meat raffle on January 27th at Contenders in East Providence. That event raised $748 for the Martin Middle School PTA. Our PTA is also planning a bingo night on March 22nd at East Providence High School. The second quarter ended on January 23rd, and Martin had a total of 99 students that made summa cum laude, and 175 students made magna cum laude. We are so proud. Our wrestling team wrapped up a fabulous season. Three of our student wrestlers made it to states: Anthony E., Max P., and Jared M. We would like to take a moment to publicly congratulate Violet Jessup on participating in the first ever history-making Sanchez Girls Middle and High School Wrestling Tournament. Violet placed first in her weight class, bringing home the gold to both Martin Middle School and Townie Nation. Our boys basketball team had an amazing season and won the divisional championship. The boys team then continued on to the Final Four, but unfortunately lost to Pontiac Middle School. Congratulations to the boys for an outstanding season. Our girls basketball team also made it to playoffs, but lost to Portsmouth Middle School. This was the first year of the East Providence Middle School swim team, and Martin has 6 swimmers participating: Lola, Sam, Aiden, Gemma, Maya, and Sophia. They are competing with Barrington Middle School, Bayview, Hendricken, Moses Brown, Wheeler, Mount Hope Middle School, and Lincoln School. On Friday, January 26th, we kicked off our Super Cereal Bowl against Riverside. The Super Cereal Bowl is a friendly competition with Riverside. The Super Cereal Bowl concluded on Friday, February 9th. Martin came out on top and had a total of 2,885 points, and Riverside had a total of 1,179 points. We are so very happy to give back to the EP Food Pantry and Hope and Faith Drive. Our NJHS just ended our Lolly Love sale. We sold Lolly Loves to all students at lunches before Valentine's Day. Students were able to buy Lolly Loves for themselves, teachers, or students. They were passed out on Valentine's Day. We would like to welcome Ms. Grillo. She is our new administrative assistant in the main office. We are so excited to have her on our team. She has brought her creativity, vivacious personality, and overall love of East Providence to Martin. There have been a lot of construction updates throughout this past month, and while I don't want to steal Mr. Murphy's thunder, we are all excited to see major demolition of the former main office upon our arrival after February vacation. A huge shout out to both students from Riverside and Martin for performing in a fantastic play through the Boys and Girls Club of East Providence, the Phantom Tow Booth. Congratulations to all the cast and crew members. On February 7th, our administrative team and the East Providence Police Department presented our students to the new ALICE protocols. It was a presentation to inform our students of what should a situation happen. Thank you to Mrs. Clarkin, Mrs. Messier, Captain Catterat, Officer Ryan, Officer Bill, and Officer Esrod for your continued support. On Friday, February 9th, we had our dance and sports night. Over 200 students attended for such a fun night. A special thanks to the 7th grade team of teachers for sponsoring this event. Thank you for having me here tonight, and I look forward to seeing you next month. At this time, I'm happy to answer any questions. Please join me in welcoming Tyler Melmed, the liaison from Riverside.
Megan, can you stay there 1 second? I don't have any questions, but I do have a statement. Megan was the first and only person from the public that has attended a building committee meeting this year. And she sat with us and attended it and she took her own notes. It was great. So I want to give a shout out to you for coming and sitting in it. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Next is Tyler Melmed, Riverside Middle School.
Good evening, school committee members, Dr. Bowler, Dr. Ferrand, and Miss Corsi. My name is Tyler Melmed, and it's a pleasure to be here again this evening to speak about recent events at Riverside Middle School. To kick off the new year, we had our middle of the year Viking Spirit Assemblies to review expectations, things to work on, and what's been going well. As an incentive for good behavior and no office referrals in January, Burger King certificates for a meal were also distributed to students. We also had the opportunity as 8th graders to plan our schedules for 9th grade and apply to CTC. I personally got to plan my classes, and I'm looking forward to taking these courses at the high school. From January 26th to February 29th, we collaborated with Martin Middle School and Carl Sweeney of the Hope and Faith Drive, as we collected soup cans and cereal boxes to benefit residents of our city for a Super Cereal Bowl. On January 30th, we hosted a skate night, which was very popular for our students. On February 1st, we had our Pink Zone fundraiser, thanks to the efforts of Mr. and Mrs. Salitro, along with the RMS community. In total, we raised $1,000 for breast cancer awareness during this event. The boys won the game, and the girls did well, but couldn't come out on top. We definitely won in our efforts to fight breast cancer. Recently, it was School Counselors Week at RMS, and we want to thank our counselors, Mrs. Albanese, Miss Hamill, Miss Lombardo, and Mrs. Mignelli, for spreading kindness through some fun school activities. We finished the week with our winter dance, which was great. The week before vacation, we had Quarter 2 Honors Bingo for all students who made the honor roll. In addition, we have an attendance incentive for students to earn Viking Spirit water bottles filled with candy for students with no more than 2 absences this year. Finally, RMS has been getting new windows over the past couple months, and we want to thank our teachers who have been very flexible with the classroom changes that have taken place. Does anyone have any questions?
Next item, please.
Next item is the consent agenda.
Just a reminder to the public that may be wondering why our consent agenda is a little short this month. The school committee had a meeting last Tuesday and voted on the additional items on that. So for tonight, that's why we only have the personnel report. Is there a motion to approve the personnel report?
I'll make the motion.
Sorry. Do we have any additional questions, or would we like to push that off till the end? Is that a first, Tony?
Yes.
Sure. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All that say aye?
Aye.
Aye. And in this moment, we would also like to recognize Dr. Celeste Bowler on her retirement. She's been an amazing person, getting to know her since being here. I know you've taken the time to, teach Max and I a lot when we first came in, showing us the ropes. So we definitely want to acknowledge you, say thank you. And I also would like to let the public know the school committee will be acknowledging and thanking the retirees from this school year, hopefully towards the end of the school year, to make sure that everyone is recognized by the whole school committee and administration. I'm not sure if anyone else wanted to add anything else.
Please, thank you.
Yep.
So today we announced the retirement of someone who has dedicated years of their life to the betterment of education. As our esteemed assistant superintendent for the last 8 years, who I've got to work with for the last 8 years, Dr. Bowler has been an integral part of our journey towards excellence. Throughout her tenure, she has exemplified professionalism, dedication, and genuine passion for education. She has been a guiding force, offering wisdom, support, and leadership to all of those fortunate to work with her and alongside with her. Her contributions have left an indelible mark on our school district, shaping the lives of countless students and educators. She has not only excelled in her professional duties, but also has fostered a culture of collaboration, innovation, and continuous improvement. Since sitting up here, I have seen the millions and millions of grants that have come through thanks to Dr. Bowler. We would not have the incredible pre-K program, in my opinion, the best in the state, without Dr. Bowler. We would not have had Camp Invention, which has been plentiful for many, including my own daughter. She has been a mentor, a confidant, and a friend to many, always willing to lend a listening ear or offer guidance when needed. As she embarks on her new chapter of her life, we want to express our deepest gratitude of her unwavering commitment and tireless efforts. Dr. Bowler, your impact on our educational community is immeasurable, and your presence will be sorely missed. We wish you nothing but the best in your well-deserved retirement. May this new chapter be filled with joy, fulfillment, and endless opportunities for adventure. And I will miss you. Thank you. A lot.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And so will my daughter.
I'm not sure if anyone else has anything else to add. I know it's tough to follow up after that. Next item, please.
Next item is PTO, PTA, EPLAC reports.
I thought you were offering to say the report for me. I am here representing EPLAC today for going over what we did at the last meeting. We have a new EPLAC chair. Logan Monitz is the new chair of the EPLAC. So please attend. It's this Wednesday at 6 o'clock at Kent Heights. 6 o'clock? We have gone over the Tell Us Something Good that Mary always used to bring up here. There is a new parent who has joined the Hope and Faith team and is joining Carl in his Kindness Club at Silver Spring. They made bags. National Kindness Day already passed, so we'll go over that. A parent from East Providence High School was excited and wanted to share that the senior project for the students made it more inclusive to include alternate path students. It was successful and the students enjoyed presenting their projects. Another parent for Tell Us Something Good was thankful that the bus transportation for their special needs child that has behavioral needs is going more smoothly, and that the bus staff has learned how to communicate with the child, and they've been able to de-escalate behaviors and create a bond that has flourished into a wonderful friendship. That's the bus driver and the bus monitor. They have a great system going on. We're working on some workshops coming up for March, and let's see. They are doing staff applications for extended school year for potential dates to be July 1st to August 1st. We are working on a recognition night committee, so we are looking for volunteers if anyone wants to be part of that to do our annual recognition. They are also looking for a co-chair if anyone's interested to work with Logan. Please reach out to the EPLAC community. And moving forward, they're looking at doing parent surveys, how we can help students and parents in the community, discussion of a recognition night change, and that is it. That is the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Next item is the superintendent's report. Dr. Ferrand.
Principal Karen Moore, would you kindly join us up here for these, for the, put together? Yeah. Oh, okay. and Principal Lisa Pita for the principal's report for Waddington and Orlo.
We have a PowerPoint presentation, so I don't know if you want to spin around. Oh, you're right. I didn't want to turn your heads. Good evening. I'm Lisa Pita. I'm the principal at Orlo. We are going to be presenting tonight collectively on our equity teams that started 2 years ago at Waddington and Orlo. Okay, next slide, please. Okay.
So our equity team began our work by looking at our survey works data for the school year 22-23. We saw that cultural awareness and action, as reported by the teachers in our school, was down 10% from the previous year. Our biggest changes were questions 1, 2, and 3. Question 1 had to do with how often students are given opportunities to learn about people from different races, ethnicities, or cultures. Question 2 was about how often students are encouraged to think more deeply about race-related topics. And question 3 was about how comfortable are you discussing race-related topics with your students. Next slide, please. We also looked at cultural awareness and action from a teacher's perspective, and this decreased 11% overall from the previous year. Our biggest changes in this category were questions 1 and question 4. Question 1, how often do professional development opportunities help you explore new ideas about how to promote equity in your practice? That was down 30%. And question 4, how comfortable are you discussing race-related topics with your colleagues? And that was down 20%. Next slide, please.
Orlo went through a similar process. We looked at our survey works data from 22-23 and found areas that we had either decreased significantly or that we felt the favorability was not where exactly we wanted it to be. So the first 2 questions come from teachers in thinking about colleagues. So this is colleague to colleague. Was at 58%. We felt like, although it's not a huge decrease, we felt like it was an area that we needed to bring some awareness to and do some work around. The second question there, how comfortable are you discussing race-related topics with your students? That was a huge decrease, which was a concern for us, and again, a reason that we decided to bring this to the forefront. And then lastly, how often do adults at your school have important conversations? This is based on the students, and again, it's very low. So although decreased, it's something that we certainly want to increase. Next slide, please. This is the history of our collective teams. So Waddington and Orlo began our collaboration really in kind of May and June of 2022, where both of us were in a position to begin equity teams, and we decided to do our work jointly. Our teams started in September of 2022, and we started initially with 5 sessions of diversity talks that we did virtually. Both of our teams are diverse in and of themselves, including staff, paraprofessionals, and central office staff. Once that session ended, we went on to looking at a book called Leading Your School Toward Equity, and we read the first 2 chapters. The nice thing about this book is that it's very practical. It tells you how you can lead some of these discussions in your school. And so we took the information in those 2 chapters, and we went into that 3rd bullet there, and we have made, at this point, 2 presentations to our staff. One was to introduce the equity work, thinking about where we currently are, kind of what we want to look like, and then each school worked on creating a definition of equity. If you go to the next slide. Oh, Oh, I'm first, I guess. Each school did this as part of our work. So we made a word garden of words that we felt like represented equity. And so everyone had a chance to add and contribute to this. And this is what Orlo's came out looking like. Opportunity, equal, fairness seem to be kind of the big words there in the middle.
Next slide, please. So similar to Orlo, we did the same activity at our first faculty meeting with our staff. Using the word garden, as you can see, equal came out on top. And we felt that this was a great opportunity for our team, our equity team, to discuss with our faculty the difference between equality and equity, equity being the foundation of our work. Next slide, please. So there is a difference between equity and equality. Equity refers to fairness and justice, where equality is the state of being equal, especially in status, rights, and opportunities. Equality means that each individual or group of people is given the same exact resources and opportunities, regardless of the circumstances. Next slide. I added this visual because I think it's a great representation of the difference between equality and equity. Next slide.
These are 3 equity principles that are outlined in Leading Your School Toward Equity. These were introduced to our staff as they started to think about what each school's definition of equity would be. So the equity principles, as defined by this text, is everyone is grounded in a common purpose, everyone gets what they need, and everyone has open access to resources. They were given this information as part of their teamwork, and the way that we did this creation of our equity definitions was to have small groups create a definition of equity, and then each small group presented their definition of equity, and we used all of those definitions to put them together, and we created one definition that we felt like encompassed our school. Next slide, please. So this is Orlo's equity statement. So again, we put several together. We decided on one that we used as kind of our draft, and then we added and deleted from one to add pieces from the other ones. So Orlo's equity statement is, we at Orlo believe in providing all community members with opportunities and resources needed for success.
Next slide, please. So similar to the process that Orlo went through, Waddington, we did the same there at a faculty meeting, and this is what we came up with. At Waddington, we are committed to providing a safe environment so each student receives what they need to meet their full potential. Next slide. So what are our next steps for both of our teams? We will continue to meet monthly. We will continue our work with Leading Your School Toward Equity. For our staff, we are going to have at least one more diversity talks workshop with our full faculty. The next one is on microaggressions, which are unintentional discrimination against members of a marginalized group, such as racial or ethnic. And we will continue with our cultural nights as part of our family engagement. So next slide, we have some photos. So this is last year's Waddington Multicultural Night. As you can see, this is last year's 4th year doing it, and it'll be Orlo's 2nd year doing a multicultural night. This event has both highlighted our school's diverse cultural makeup as well as serve as opportunities to expand experiences with new cultures. We are very excited to continue this great work with both our school communities. And if you want to go to the next slide, there are some photos from Orlo's Arts and Cultural Night as well this past year. Any questions for us?
Before we move on, I just wanted to say to the principals, thank you for the presentation, especially with the subject that you guys covered. Especially when it's considering like a lot of our schools are very much diverse and they're like all different types of diverse too. It's really great to see like that hard work being put in from the principals and down to really try and make sure that everyone feels seen and heard and understood in the schools, and that makes the difference for everyone, especially as a Latina myself. So it's great. It's great to hear the good work that's being done. Thank you. Next item, please. Oh, we have Army JROTC. Superintendent, will you take this one? Thank you.
So back in 2017, we applied for the Army Junior ROTC program, and we have been on a wait list since 2017. So we received an email at the beginning of February letting us know that we were at the top of the list and that we had been approved for a chapter. I've been in discussions with Mr. Hanlon and Mr. Black about this, and we are really excited for this opportunity. We did an interest survey with about 200 just responses, and of those we had about 65 students that said that they may be interested in the program. Yesterday I had the opportunity to meet with one of the instructors in New Bedford who actually I had met a few years back when we did tours of the open house, and he had spoken highly of the program. It's really, not only is it for students that might be taking a path into the military, but it's really a character development program for students, and it's really a great opportunity. It can be a CTC program, so Mr. Hanlon will help to launch the program and get the program going, but there's a lot of opportunity for our students, and we feel like it really does meet the need of a subgroup of students that need to feel more connected and need to have more opportunities and don't exactly feel like there's something here that draws them in. So we're just really excited about, since we've been waiting since 2017, having this opportunity and being offered this program. We could have students from out of district tuition in like other CTC programs, and the cost for us, we would pay for one of the two instructors, so the cost for the district would be about $93,000 a year for the instructor. And that would be the only cost we would incur, and then the Army pays for all of the textbooks, uniforms, travel, all of those other costs that are associated with the program. And we do believe once the program is RIDE approved, that there may be some Perkins money for some of the extras in the program. But I wanted to bring it tonight. You have a syllabus that New Bedford uses, and they've offered to help support us getting the program off the ground. So it just gives you a little bit of an overview of what the courses look like. So students could be enrolled for 4 years in the program, and if they decided to take a path into the military, they end up, they would end up as an E3, which is third year enlisted. So there's just a lot of good opportunities, and there's scholarship money available if they do decide to go on and enter the military. So I wanted to bring it to the committee, see if anyone had any questions about the program, and seek your approval to begin working with the Army to implement this.
Do we have a timeline of when this program would be launched if it's approved by us in RIDE?
Yes, so RIDE wouldn't have to approve it initially. It's kind of like a fashion design program. Once we got it up and going, we would submit for approval, but we would look to begin in June so that they would plan for the summer. And then in September, we would be ready to go. Students would be taking it. It's a class. So they would be taking the classes starting in September. And we would work and they offered to help us too in hiring, so there's criteria for hiring. So we would work to hire the instructors as soon as we got approval to move the program forward. And there's 2 ways you can start up. So like when a new unit starts up, like sometimes the districts pay for the whole cost. We are lucky that we were offered the, and I believe it's the National JROTC program as opposed to the NDCC program, which we would be paying for entirely. So.
Just for clarity then, for how long is the grant then?
As long as we have a
As long
chapter.
as we have it? Okay.
Yep.
So that makes a difference.
We would
That
pay
is-
for one instructor as long as we have a chapter, and they would continue to pay for the rest of the program. And the only way that you can get a program is if one program left. There's only so many in the region that they allow, and that's why we've been waiting so long for this program.
Do you have any additional questions?
Cindy, what was the cost of that?
$93,000. There'll be 2 full-time instructors in the program, and they do a week-long summer program. They have after-school programming for students. There's really a lot, and I had shared the brochure with you with all the information. There's really a lot of opportunity for students. So again, they pay for one of the instructor and all the other costs, and we pay for one instructor.
So how much of a say does the district then have in selecting both instructors then?
We
in that
do.
case?
My understanding is we do the interviewing, and then we submit to command, and they make sure, we have a criteria first, but you have to be retired Army, and then there has to be an officer and an enlisted. So there's strict criteria as to who you can hire, and then once we select, then the Army approves.
And in the event that someone is not a right fit, let's say, would we still have would the district still have the opportunity to, make that analysis and determination in finding a replacement, or are we limited to their criteria on when we can let someone go if they're not a good fit?
So I don't want to speak to that right now because I'm not sure. I mean, I can look into it, but I assume since we do the hiring, if there's an issue, that we would work with the Army to do a replacement.
Because I believe out of all the CTC programs, at least, I mean, some of them are, have been businesses on the outside,
Right.
But at whatever point, we can always say,
Right.
we would like to terminate our, contract with you, and we'll seek someone else. I just would like to have that confirmed, if you can get to us with that information, because I think it's important. Just
Yeah, they work for the
you
school
know.
district, but they're approved by the Army.
Yeah, and I wouldn't like for, let's say, if it's someone that is covered by the Army and not the person that we're covering the $93,000, that just because we're not paying for them out of our packet, that
No,
it wouldn't be
they're both
different or
employed.
something?
No.
So,
Yep, that I know.
the small details of that would, I think, be good to know.
Any other questions?
Just one, for the 93,000, we got funding for that?
I think it's important for students, so we'll definitely find it. So we'll be able to budget for it next year in November, so it's really we would be picking up 4 months in this budget. So June, July, so half of it. We pick up half of it in this budget, which
Can you just let the committee, so we're going to come up with half of that?
about 46,500, somewhere around there, that we would need to come out of this year's budget, which I feel like this is a great opportunity for students, and we can make that happen.
No, I agree with you, just if you can let us know.
Yeah.
If we can just, what the options would be, where we would come up with that money,
Yep.
because I agree with this too, and then next year we could always budget the whole program, but just to
Yep.
let us know where the money's going to come from.
Yep.
Thank you.
Through the chair, what happens if there is no student involvement? What if we only get 1 or 2 kids? Do we still continue with the program? I know sometimes when we have classes here, if there's only one or two interested, the class goes away.
Yeah, I think they recognize too, because, so New Bedford, where Justin, who came here,
Yep.
worked, they have 250 students involved in the program. So I asked him those
Yeah.
types of questions, like what do you see for interest in like the different chapters? It does take a little bit of time to build the program, but I do think like any of our other CTC programs, we saw that with dental, right? We only had a few students the first year, and now like the program was full this year for freshmen. So I think they expect that it's gonna take us a little time to build the program, but I do think that we're gonna have a lot of student interest. And like I said, just a preliminary survey that went out to some of the students, we had like 200 responses and 65 were interested. And you can close a chapter, but I wouldn't anticipate that that would happen here.
Or even if we had to like downsize it to like one instructor too, like if we have that flexibility, I guess
Yeah,
is
I'm
what
not
I'm trying
sure.
to say.
That I'm not sure
Like-
you can do. I think the requirement is 2 instructors. But we also, so students from other districts can also come in. So if we have seats in the program, then we could allow other students in.
Is New Bedford the closest
No.
other one?
So I believe there's one in Newport, Providence, and then Cranston.
So locally, East Bay, just like, I mean, not Newport, but yeah, no one has that.
No.
Okay.
So at this time then, just to clarify, it's just so that the vote would just be then for the district to move on to see what specifics, if this is something that is possible
So we're,
in our budget, and
they
you know,
need
if
a
there's the
commitment
interest.
from us.
Okay.
So they are waiting for a commitment for us. If we don't commit to the program, then they'll just go on to the next school. So I had spoken with him early February. Our meeting was delayed, so he reached out again to me last week, and I said our meeting is tonight, and I'd have an answer either way tonight. So we do have to commit to the program so that planning can get started, or we have to pass on it and they'll move on.
I just have one last question. If school funding became such an obstacle in this district and we couldn't afford this program anymore, is that an option to just?
I think you can disband and close the
if-
chapter,
if
because
it
that's how we
becomes-
got a chapter.
Okay,
Is
okay.
that's another chapter disbanded,
Okay, thank you.
and I can check.
I was gonna say,
But,
that
yeah.
kind of goes to the flexibility, right? Like, I would like to definitely look into it, especially if we have the, one instructor covered by them and they're covering the supplies and the books and all that. But 93,000 is a hefty amount, considering the adjustments we're gonna have to make this upcoming budget. So that's the only thing. As long as we have the flexibility to, the district isn't like, doesn't have their hands tied is my concern. So if, at this point, it's like a commitment, and then we can, we always have the option to close the chapter, then that's something, especially, again, considering, budgets change. And unfortunately, a lot of that stuff is out of our hands. But it's always nice to know that the district has the option to make those adjustments if needed. So that's what I just wanted to make sure that, if you could follow up with them and get back to us. But I'm not sure if anyone else on the committee has any additional questions?
Sandy, just a follow-up question. When Jess had mentioned like how many students would be in this, I was feeling pretty comfortable, but then when I heard the outside students, I kind of wasn't comfortable no more. Because just as Janet said, we have financial issues, but we can't deny our students, things. I'm just concerned, like if this program would be, say, for 30 kids and we only got 20, would we bring 10 more in, or is there, what are we getting, how many kids could we serve for, say, for the whole program of $93,000?
Yep, so New Bedford has 250 students with 4 instructors. So I would anticipate, like, our goal would be at some point 125 or even more than that. I think they 10% is their goal, so 170 at some point. But again, it takes a while to build a program, right? So
Yes, yeah.
So
No, but
it
what I wouldn't want to, like I said, Sandy, I'm all for, financial, but I wouldn't want to build this program from students coming into the district with East Providence taxpayers' money.
so we get tuition for them.
Yeah.
It's like a CTC program. So if they were to come into the program for the ROTC, the ascending district pays tuition.
Okay.
Just
yeah.
like any of our other programs. But our goal is always to fill it first with our own students that are interested. And then if we have seats that are available and there are applicants, then we consider those applicants for the seats.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a limit to how many students can be in this program?
I think there would be a cap. I don't know exactly what the cap is. Again, I think they talk about like 10% of the population, so our goal would be somewhere around 170 students that were actively involved. Between 150 and 170. And actually, New Bedford added instructors. They had so many students that were involved. So that, I think, is always an option, too.
Do we have an idea where we would have these classes in? Would it be at the high school?
It
or-
would be at the high school. So they would have to find dedicated space to the classes. There are requirements for that, and they're aware of that. So Mr. Hanlon and Mr. Black and I had extensive conversations
how
about
it
the
would look
program,
like.
what it would look like, and if it was the right program for the school.
And so there would be no additional costs, right, aside from the fee for the instructor?
Correct.
Does the committee have any additional questions or comments?
I think this is a great opportunity. I think it's just so new to this group of people that, usually when a CTC class comes in, we just talk about the class and we let it go. We don't ask how many people, what happens if they leave because it'll drop, or we just kind of go with the flow. But we have to remember that this is for kids, and ultimately that's what we're here for. So if the kids seem to enjoy it and the kids want to do it, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Just like if dental didn't work out, it didn't work out. But it worked out and it's doing phenomenal. So you gotta, especially if the principals are on board, there's a reason why, so.
Right. And I do feel like we wouldn't have waited 7 years for a program if it wasn't successful where it is, so, it's been a long time coming, and it is a big deal to be approved for a chapter. So we are very fortunate that it's been offered to us.
Next, we have the alternative learning program.
So I wanted to bring to the committee for approval, we are also looking at creating an alternative learning program for students at the high school for next year. So the way that we would structure the program is it would be located at administration across the street, and we were looking at 2 classrooms with a maximum of 40 students, looking at two classrooms, half-day sessions with a work component opposite that. So the students would also have being on the high school campus, the students would also have the opportunity to integrate back into the high school, whether it's for a CTC program or a certain subject, if they're meeting with success here. So it's really for students that are having a difficult time at the high school or that are in out-of-district placements. So currently we have 9 students that are placed out-of-district at a school in the East Bay, and we pay about $35,000 for each of those students. And we do feel like we can create a program that services those students better than what's currently going on, or we just feel like we know their needs and we can service them well in district and provide additional opportunities with them not having to travel. out of the city, and being here where if they are ready, they can integrate back into the high school, and we see that as more seamless than the situation now. So we would anticipate bringing most of those students back into the district, possibly other students back into the district that are in other placements. And again, it would give us a step-down program also, so we have students that come from much more restrictive placements, and they would be able to, before just being, placed at the high school, they would be able to use this program as, a step down before going back into the high school. So we would be working with the high school staff to create the criteria, and they would be overseeing the eligibility for students. And our vision for the program is really to provide a program on the campus of the high school to support students that are really struggling to fit in. This is a big high school, and there are students here that just can't find their way for whatever the reasons are. And we also have students that have requested virtual learning, which we really don't have a mechanism for at this point. So giving those students a much smaller learning environment and meeting their needs. So as far as personnel, we have a program here that has 3 teachers. We would be looking to move over one of those teachers and a paraprofessional from that program. We'd also be looking to hire another teacher and probably another paraprofessional depending on the staffing here. We'd also probably, the assistant pupil personnel director could help to oversee the program. And we'd work with a social worker to provide support, either from the high school or split with another school, to give students what they need. So, we started talking about this program mid-year last year with the high school administration when we saw the need for it. It's a conversation we've had with the teachers union, and they see a need for it, and we really feel like it's good for students and it's good for the district to move forward with this. So I'm seeking your approval to start to move forward and start the planning process for this.
Does the committee have any questions or comments for this item? I think you worded it perfectly. I think our school district is in a better position to provide the best services to our own students here. We know what the needs are. We know sometimes they've spent enough time here that we truly do know them in and out. And I think it would be best to service them here. And also close enough to the school that they also have the option to return. So I'm really happy to hear that this is before us tonight. I've been looking forward to this, so.
Through the chair.
Mm-hmm.
Are we looking for this to start in September?
We are.
Okay. As things progress on what we're going to do, teachers we're going to hire, paraprofessionals, someone to oversee it, I would like to be directly involved. I don't need to pick the people, but I want to be known. If we're going to put somebody in a position of, trying to word this correctly, oversight, I want to know why we're putting that one person over another person versus hiring somebody if that's the right thing. Because these kids, we've had this program here at this school before, and the gentleman down at the end and I were here, and it didn't work out so well. But I also don't think it had the proper people involved to make those decisions. I love the fact that deans are involved and Mr. Black's involved, you're involved. And I do know that one of the classrooms here is currently doing very well with some of those students. I've heard through parents that there's been some really good things going on. So I just think that we need to be updated and not curtain called like it happened last time and we were blindsided by something. So I really would like to be upfront with the school committee, upfront with the personnel, and know what's going on.
Okay. And I think one of the advantages is it's in our building.
Yeah.
So we're in the building. We want students to have an opportunity to be successful in the program and have the opportunity to come back to the high school if and when they're ready. And we need options. Like, we definitely have a population that struggles here And we just need to be able to give them some options where they can be successful.
And the other placement that these current students are in are only really receiving about 3 hours of education a day. So this would be a little, our teachers teaching our students, so. Thank you.
I just want to say I agree with what Jessica was requesting for us to be kept in the loop, maybe even once we're a little bit closer to kind of, setting it up to kind of meet with us at some point. Maybe we can do like a workshop or something and just so we can be filled in all at once. And if we have any questions at that point, we'll, ask at that point. Next, we have the facilities update.
Good evening. Jumping right into Riverside Middle School. We have 3 things going on at Riverside right now. The window replacement project, which Lockheed Corporation has been progressing for the last 2.5 months very well, actually a little bit more than that. No unexpected interruptions are happening there. Occasional hiccups here and there with regard to things that they uncover, but they're recovering nicely. Second is the science room rehab. That started in earnest last week, where they've broken down 4 science rooms and demolished most of the contents of those science rooms, and they're moving through that rehab process as we speak. And thirdly, the media center rehab will not start until early summer. So we have those things going on. These projects will be happening simultaneously, of course, and will require a significant level of pre-work and organization to minimize the disruption to normal school operations. As young Mr. Melmed said, the teachers have been exceedingly cooperative under the guide of the principal. So their cooperation with our owner's project manager and the school district, myself, Dan Carpenter, it's all coming together. We're working very well, and things are progressing nicely out there. Another item out there, the walk-in freezer has finally given up the ghost. However, the replacement of that will happen in the summertime. We're replacing that walk-in freezer. In the meantime, we have refrigeration and freezer units that have been brought into the cafeteria to take the place of the malfunctioning walk-in freezer. Also, the gymnasium divider wall was demolished over this past winter break week, and in the April week, the new drop-down vinyl and mesh curtain will be installed. So the gym teachers there will have the ability to separate that gymnasium into 2 learning halves during their physical education instruction. That's happening the 15th through the 19th of April. Over to Martin Middle School. We can spend hours talking about what's going on at Martin. However, just briefly, the exterior site work has, of course, begun in earnest. If you've driven by there and cast a glance over the fence down the hill, interior demolition for phase 1 has been completed, and exterior demolition, which began a week and a half ago, is wrapping up and due to complete within the next 2 weeks. The old main office area is gone. If you look down the hill, you'll be looking at the floor of what used to be the main office. At Silver Spring Elementary, the window replacement.
Can I just quickly,
sure.
Thank you. 2 things on Martin. I'd like to go through, if you can schedule a time.
Sure.
I have the boots, I have the hard hat, I have everything. I would like to go through if you could schedule me in.
Sure.
And number 2, I did speak to some students of Martin last week on school vacation, asking them what I would want to know. Is construction bothering them? I know it comes up at our building committee meeting, and the principal says, no, not really, but I wanted to hear, and so does Megan, but I wanted to ask some students, and I did, and they said, no, it's really not bothering them at all, and that's really good to hear, because, and these are 6th graders, so, they're a little young, and they said it's really not bothering them, and I think that's good for all of us to know that education is still going on while this is all taking place.
I will have to credit Shawmut Construction Company with doing a fantastic job of separating the 2. They've done exceedingly well and done everything they promised up to this point, and what they have promised has worked to this point. So,
Perfect.
to your
Thank
point. Silver Spring Elementary, that too has a window replacement project going on. We're in the punch list phase of that. However, that punch list is not yet complete. At Orlo Elementary, the courtyard renovation project is still scheduled and ready to go for the spring of this year. The window replacement project there is still in punch list status. That's in progress. And also the playground fence, the chain link fence, which makes up about 480 linear feet around the large playground at Orlo, is slated to be removed and replaced the week of the April break, from the 15th to the 19th. Myron J. Francis, the boiler replacement there is slated for the summer of 2024. The contract was awarded a couple months ago to Next Gen Services, who currently have the contract for HVAC maintenance in this building as well. So we trust them. They're very good at what they do, and they've proven themselves a very worthy vendor. At Waddington, the three-phase construction renovation project, phase 1, is collecting bids right now and is slated to begin this summer. They still have a fair amount of work to do to get this job underway, however. At the high school, there still remain 3 open items on the punch list, and they're working through those. They were also exploring the addition of select doors on certain bathrooms within the high school. And also the facilities team for the last week and a half has been working in conjunction with the athletic department to prepare for the start of spring sports. Lots of things to do there. And over to the admin building, the LED light replacement project was completed in mid-January and passed the Rhode Island Energy visual inspection that took place in early February. The district is now waiting on the Rhode Island Energy rebate as soon as our application grinds its way through Rhode Island Energy. And the build-out of larger offices into smaller classrooms, according to what the superintendent just said, the alternative learning, we have one very large room in there that we hope to cut into 2 classrooms that will accommodate the alternative learning path. Plans have been submitted to the city and the fire department, and we are working with them to make sure that we are crossing all our T's and dotting our I's to have those 2 classrooms built and ready for September. That concludes my report. I'd be happy to field any questions.
I have a couple on the window project. Sandy, if you could just give this committee an update on the window project at Orlo and Silver Spring. I'll put it bluntly, as far as I'm concerned, it's a nightmare. It was a window project. I think it's going on 10 months. I have a lot of questions that I would prefer to, talk to Chris and you directly financially in different items. I just think, I don't want to get a letter saying that we're suing this company and nobody has no input sitting here for 10 months. It's been a nightmare from day one. I would like all the paperwork on that project because I'm at awe how we got this far and it's a nightmare. So if you can just get me all that paperwork and then inform everybody sitting up here where we're at with this project. And then I think once we see where we're at and where we may have some answers. I know I got some questions that I want answered, how we get this far into a job and what we're facing going down the road. That would be that one. Second would be if I could have a set of the drawings, or if anybody on this committee would like a set of the drawings for the classrooms that we're going to build.
Sure.
And just to, if you can answer, are they going to be permanent?
Yes.
Okay, they'll be permanent. Okay. So if I could have that information, that would do well by me, and then we can go from there. Thank you.
Superintendent, I'm not sure if are you able to give us kind of like an overview of the window projects, or do you just want to send us an email on that?
Yes.
Okay.
That's for
The window
Orlo and Silver
project.
Spring.
The window
Orlo and Silver
project,
Spring.
yes. I will say that the superintendent was, did include us on a communication of an update briefly regarding the status of that. So I think if you can give us like a nice little report, a summary of what's been going on. We do get weekly updates, but to what Tony was saying, I have questions too. So if we can have a report and then we can maybe visit the next school committee meeting and see if that kind of answers what we're looking for. If not, we can definitely, I think, follow up as a group at our next meeting.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any additional?
I'm gonna follow up with what Tony said, and again, if it's because we can't, and I understand that, but Tony said, can you let me know when you can, how do we get here? I'm actually gonna say, how did we get here? And ask someone to answer me tonight. How did we get here? How did those windows end up like the photos that I have seen? Are we able to discuss that or no?
At this point, I'd rather not.
Yeah,
Okay,
I don't think
that's
we should
fair.
be discussing this
But
right now.
okay, fair enough.
I'll also make sure to talk to our legal counsel too and see which, if we can go, how in detail we can go, because I agree, I do want to talk about it.
Yeah, I think
also don't want to mess
legal
up
representation needs to be
whatever he may be
present when
looking
we
into
talk
now
about
to,
this.
yeah. I
Correct.
want to make sure that we still have all the options to try and resolve this in the, obviously, the most responsible way economically, and also make sure that people are obviously held accountable.
Yep.
Because I agree with everyone's frustration right now. It's, and I know the administration and our director's frustrated with the situation too. So we'll keep an eye out for that.
Yep.
For that report.
And the only thing that I say with that, because like I said, some things irritate me, is that if I'm not mistaken, my first, because in my world, the final walkthrough is the final. You pick it out in your final. We probably did 4 or 5 final walkthroughs through this window project, backing up 6 months almost. So I'm a little bit offended that we're all sitting up here and we have no updates over the last 6 months when we say there's a punch list going on. So I want to thank you for, Adam, and saying we need to be informed before we get to the point that we're going to be at. Standing here saying that, the window project's on track, when I was fortunate that, and I did tell the superintendent that I went through them all. I actually want dollar amounts. We've been through 4 or 5 window walkthroughs / finals with 5, 6, 7, 8 people. Who's paying this bill? That's where this is going to end up going with me. Because some things we can go after the contractor for. Other things, if we allow it to go on as a sitting committee, we can't go after them. Like I mentioned to Sandy at one point, when I go through these walkthroughs, there's individuals there that have no comments, that have no say. Why are they there? How much are we paying them? Why are we doing 5 and 6 walkthroughs with 6 and 7, 8 people on them? What are we accomplishing from it? Just to come to the committee and say, oh, the punch list isn't done, the punch list isn't done, month after month, Jen. So I think if we go forwards, we can get some answers for us. Thank you.
No, definitely. I agree with trying to get the information, and then we can kind of figure out as a committee how to move forward. I agree with that.
Thank you.
Can I also go through a walkthrough and set it up to go through Silver Spring and Orlo as well? Can you add that to the list of schools I need to go look through, please?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Any additional comments or questions from the committee?
I only have one question, and I feel bad because I was supposed to ask this at Christmas time, and I forgot. And we have air purifiers that we bought thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of them. Maybe not that many, but there were a lot. There were a lot. We have them somewhere in storage, I'm assuming.
Correct.
If someone were to request one, couldn't they have it?
There is a process in place for requesting an air purifier.
Okay.
The 504 process, if you're familiar with it. They request that through their school principal. Principal would bring it to Human Resources. Human Resources would investigate it, have a hearing with the nurse and the 504 board, and if it is found to be warranted, the request, we would gladly hand over one of those air purifiers.
So if I'm not okay with that as a school committee member, how can I change that?
I'm not aware of the process.
Because there is
of that
no
change.
policy about air, there's no policy.
But
So,
there's a policy about air conditioners, about fans, about air purifiers. I think that's a general appliance that would go into a classroom that is not normally there.
okay.
So,
Well, just let me bring you up to speed on that as everybody sits here. We were fortunate that when this disaster hit this world and this country, that we could at least get the portable ones. There were a lot of school districts and commercial and high-end offices that they put, we call it a fluorescent light in the exhaust system itself. So every time that exhaust system turns on, it does its job. We weren't fortunate that we could afford to do that in this district. So what I'm saying is we pulled all of our filters out because we couldn't afford the units to put the filters in. But there are a lot of districts, North Providence is some of them, I knew the companies that put them in. As you see the big ductworks throughout the whole school, they drilled a 4 or 5 inch hole. They actually put these devices in them. Every hospital has them that kills all kind of bacteria and stuff like that. Those schools are using them on a daily basis. As soon as that system comes on, whether it's a heating or an air conditioning system. So we look back and say that this district had them. They were taken out of every one of our classes. I think we got 480 of them right in that realm. So I think this committee should get the policy, what it needs to get them back in there, whether it's on a one-by-one basis, or if there's a large question, well, how can I get one if I don't meet this criteria? We, as a body, would have to sit down with the superintendent and discuss this.
Okay.
Because I've never seen the policy or the specs that would allow these to go back into the...
I just figured, like today I went to the doctor's office. There's a big sign now, put your mask on again. I just went for a checkup. I didn't go because I was sick. So again, I just feel as if teachers or paraprofessionals or parents are reaching out and asking why we don't have them when kids are all getting sick and we're like, don't miss school, don't miss school, don't miss school, and we have these just sitting around. That's all I wanted was, okay, if I have to develop a policy, I'll develop a policy, but I don't want to develop a policy that states, oh, you can bring your own in or you can put an air conditioner in. I just thought since we had them, they were used to keep illness out of classroom. That's what they were used for, to clean the air of our students and staff. If someone feels like they need one, I don't understand why they have to literally jump through hoops to get one. Again, this is my own opinion, and I'm going to stand by it. I have done that many, many times sitting up here. I could be just the one person, but it makes no sense why, if I went to my boss and I asked for a chair because my chair isn't right, it doesn't fit my body, they're not going to be like, well, let me see why your chair doesn't fit you. Oh, wait, is it because your back is not right? Like, they don't ask that. They just accommodate. And that's all I'm asking is for accommodation without having to go through a board and paperwork and a principal. So I'm done my rant. That's how I feel.
Well, Jess, that's why I personally want to see what we're putting these people, what hoops are we putting them through? That's why I asked, whoever created this we know it ain't a policy because we never approved it. So whoever put this on writing to put these teachers through hoops, I want to see that paperwork. I want to see how many hoops that we're putting these people through. It's a serious issue, and it's getting worse in society. I'm not a doctor, but we have them. They're at I call it the old career center stacked up. I think there's some in Riverside somewhere. But it's a thing that, I got hit with it for the first day of school when I walked through the schools and to see how clean these buildings were. They were incredibly, but as I was getting by some of, the older teachers, I was getting hit with the younger teachers. Mr. Ferreira, if I get sick, it's going to cost you more money to bring in a sub. I got a mortgage. I can't. Where's my unit? It was in here when I left. I'm like, I had no idea. That's when I talked to the superintendent, and we ended up figuring out that we can't afford to put filters in them. Okay, I'm not okay with that, but if there's a letter saying people got to go through hoops to get one in a classroom, I would like to see that letter, and I would like it sent to everybody on this committee.
Can you, Superintendent, can you add that to the next weekly update on what the current procedure or process is for that? And then I think we'll move on from.
Keep in mind, these air purifiers were brought on as a COVID protocol, and COVID was rescinded by the CDC, the state, and the local governments, I believe May 11th, 2023. We rescinded at that time numerous COVID protocols, including this one. So if there's further consideration about what you want to do with this, be my guest, hack away. But that's why they're no longer there.
On a different note, I'm not sure if there's nothing else to add on that. For the high school, I did want to just inform the school committee that the building committee for the high school project, they are going to be considering different items to potentially consider with the amount that is left over from the state. So I just wanted to let the committee know once there's no list finalized yet on specific items that have been agreed upon or anything. It's very much still preliminary. There's only discussions happening. But I just wanted to give everyone notice that discussions are happening, including what the director said about the research on the bathrooms, bathroom doors. So if at any point the committee has any proposals or ideas that they want to discuss, please feel free to, contact the superintendent, the director, or myself, or the building committee to share those thoughts on any potential items or projects that we can kind of look at with the remaining money that's left over. So I think
just have
that
a question on that, Jim.
Uh-huh.
Do we know, unless I missed something, the last discussion I heard was back in the beginning of November, we were going to get a dollar amount, what was there, and then what the timeline is to spend it.
Mm-hmm.
Did we get that? Did you get that? Did I miss something?
We're not there. We had actually just talked about it at our last meeting about getting that. We didn't have it at that point, and it's still being worked on, is what our superintendent's saying now. But that is on our radar, Tony, and once we do have that, we'll make sure the committee has a copy of that final amount. Right now, we have an estimate. We can get that amount for you. It should be covered in the minutes in your packet, at least for not this week, the previous week. That was discussed in there. But I can definitely make sure a copy gets to you about where we are now at this point, at least.
So where I'm getting lost from is back in November, we had discussed being maybe no later than the end of December or January, we would have a dollar amount, and then we would have a time frame that we had to spend it. So now we're going on the end of February, and Gilbane still hasn't given us a dollar amount almost 4 months later?
We have an estimated amount now. It's not final, though. I'm assuming you're asking for like the final, not like where we
No,
are.
what I'm saying is when we discussed this, all I was told it was a six-figure amount. So in other words, six figures could be $100,000, it could be $900,000.
It's in all of the building committee documents that are distributed every month, like in
No,
the
no,
packet.
what I'm saying-
But the final reconciliation.
But I don't sit on the building committee.
No, but
You
it goes
know
to
what
the
I'm
school
saying?
committee, that information. But the final, what we're saying is the final reconciliation number is not complete. So we are still reconciling bills that have come in with the city to make sure that we anticipate it soon, but we're still not at a final number yet. So if you want an estimate, I can give you the
No,
information
what I'm
that
saying
goes
is,
out.
what I'm saying is, I just don't, because I put it the way we're told, and it was, I don't want to get an estimate and then get an M and say we got 1 week to spend it, or the city
No,
took it
it's
back.
not,
You know,
no. We can't close out the project yet because we still are working with the mast arm and finishing up the work across the street, like to put the mast arm back. So the project's not going to close out yet.
All
But
right,
we are waiting for a final number.
thank you.
Anything else from the committee regarding facilities for the director or superintendent regarding facilities? Thank you. Next, we have the finance update.
Go after the tall person. Good evening, everyone. On the agenda this evening, for your approval, is the fiscal year 22 audit that was completed by Clifton Lawson, our auditing firm. We normally receive 2 reports for the audit, the audited financial statements, and as well, since we have federal expenditures over $1 million, they have to do what's called a single audit. That piece of the fiscal year 22 audit is not complete yet, but when that is ready, available, that will come before you for approval. For our school unrestricted fund, so our fund balance that we have to work with. So at the end of fiscal year 22, it was $4,711,189. and we had an increase of $50,253 for that fund. So that was good. And again, those are the funds that we use for our capital improvement projects that are reimbursed via housing aid. Also for the audit, our other post-employment benefits continues to be funded at around the 47% mark. So that's really good. So we're making sure that if we need funds available for the future to cover health care for our retirees, we have those funds available. And separate from the audit, just to let the committee know that we did receive our final $1.6 million from the city in July of 2023, so that completes the $6.5 million that they were holding of our money that we now have in totality. Okay. Moving on, oh, and I just wanted to mention too, in terms of the audit, there were no items to note from the auditor. Our practices, our policies are all good. We run a very tight ship, and I really do need to give credit to Michael Hubert, who just does a great job for us. Moving on to fiscal year 23, so the fiscal year that just ended on October 31, 2023. It's looking like we're going to end the fiscal year with approximately $100,000 to the good. So we do still have a couple of minor invoices that are still trickling in that we are still paying. The superintendent, so just to go back a little bit for what you were talking about, my life for the past few weeks has been working on the crosswalk for the building project to come up with that final number. We needed to make sure that what the city had and what we had, and I'm working with our owner's project manager to make sure that the two numbers match. There were some expenses that inadvertently should have been covered by the bond that didn't get processed, so we're just making sure that all of that gets done. And definitely at the March building committee meeting, I fully anticipate that there will be a number that will be shared with the building committee, and the school committee will hear it for the following night too. And then just moving on, so into fiscal year 24, we are 3 months into the fiscal year, and so far so good. And parents, again, it's never too late to fill out that free reduced lunch application, www.myschoolapps.com. Thank you very much. Any questions?
I have a question from that backs this process, was sent to the financial director. When Sandy puts that report together for us, can we just have how much money we owe the window company, how much money we fine them, and is the fine still enacted?
We're going to be sharing everything.
Those are three important questions.
Yep, we're going to be sharing everything with the school committee, because anything that happens will ultimately be the decision of all of you. So I fully anticipate we will be sharing everything. So the legal counsel has already been involved. We've been sharing information with her, and we will be bringing all of that to you for your consideration and vote.
I would not like that last minute, and I don't want to, and I won't discuss in an executive session because I've been bringing it up here for 6 months already. So if nobody wants to answer that question, I want my package, and nobody stamped confidential on it, because as far as I'm concerned, it's taxpayers' money, and I got a serious problem with this window project. And as far as I'm concerned, this committee has been getting lack of information on it. That's only my opinion, and I'm going to prove my opinion's right once everybody sees this report. So that's all I got to say about it. I'm actually embarrassed to say that I let it go as far as I did, being as calm as I did, but I'm just about done with it, because you look at the Riverside project, it's like night and day compared to this. I want to understand what the two different situations were. And I'm not going to say that because this company was the bottom of the list that we took and Riverside was in the middle. I'm not buying that. So thank you for your time.
Any additional questions from the committee for our Director of Finance? Just one, I do just want to add to the public knowledge, like, I agree. I do have additional questions, Tony. By no means do I think we have the whole picture yet, because there's been a lot of developments occurring. But we've also received weekly updates on all the window projects and projects in general in our school district. So I would like to think that if you had questions from those emails that we've been receiving weekly, that you would have contacted our superintendent about that.
I've had
and us.
contacted her, and I got emails to show it
Okay.
again, so I am
Okay.
following the
I
protocol.
wanna make
Oh,
sure-
no, you don't have to make sure,
I wanna
because
make
I don't
sure
need to
that
be
our
told 3
superintendent
times.
is,
I get emails that I've been sending her that I want all this information, and I'm not getting it. So I'll print out all my emails to her, and I'll mail them to you or hand them to you at the next meeting.
I would definitely appreciate that, because I was not aware that that was happening then, because I would like to think that, information that's being requested that's related to those projects are being, received and responded to, so I don't know. Or I guess we'll get a better report anyways for all of us to kind of get on the same page as to what exactly you're looking for, but I did just want to at least acknowledge that, at least on my end, from what I've been seeing, we do get those updates on the report. They're not as detailed as what we're looking for now, but they do have those updates on there.
I disagree with that. An update that the window project is fine. We're gonna find out that it isn't fine, so if you look at them all.
So, I just wanted to add that point in. So, next item, please.
Next item is discussion items.
First, we have these, an update on the student residency confirmation in East Providence for our school district. So, I just wanted to, I guess, I'll start off unless anyone else wants to step in. So I think it's very much similar to where we were last year, I think, when it comes to our elementary schools being able to adequately, I think, verify each student's residency. The policy committee of the school committee did work on that, and I think there's really been a big push from the schools to make sure that that's followed through and making sure that those residency forms are being checked. I just wanted to ask the superintendent if there's any additional tools or things that potentially may be needed, or if those conversations of what assistance people need to kind of get through the residency forms when it's the middle school and high school, when it's obviously a larger population, so it's a lot more complicated to get through. So I wasn't sure if there's something that we need to be informed of. We did hire a, I'm forgetting their title right now, but truancy officers, there we go, recently. So I wasn't sure is there anything else that we need to consider or know about to further assist our middle schools and high school at this point, I guess.
No, it's just a large task, especially at the beginning of the year when you have all this additional paperwork going in and even just recording it for 1,700 students. But we do use the attendance officer to go out and check residency when we do have concerns. We have received some tips on that tip line that we put on the website, and we've followed up on all of those. So.
Is it possible when a child at the high school and middle school sign up for sports and you have to fill out all those documents? I know it's online, but every season we fill it out, every season. So the spring, fall, winter, if your child plays 3 sports, we can't put that form in there, and then until you play, you cannot play until your forms are turned in. You can't even go to practice until all of your forms are filled in. I'm not trying to enforce people going to people's houses to be like, you don't live here. All I'm asking is, the policy states in order for you to come to our school, you need to send in this residency requirement. That's what I want. I want to see, even the biggest one that shocked me. In order to get into pre-K, you gotta send in your form, or you don't come to pre-K. You don't come. 0. Outstanding, they have 0, because you can't come. And here we're like, come on in, you don't have your forms, come on in. I understand that, I understand what we're dealing with, but the pre-K ELC, that's a big one. Again, they're 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds. You can't come in at 72% outstanding and only 19 of you turned it in.
They're registering, pre-K registers.
Yeah.
Every student that registers produces residency forms
Yep.
when they register for the district. So every pre-K student, in order to qualify for pre-K, has to produce. That's why they have every residency requirement. They come in, they register, and they provide it. So just like every new student to the district provides that. So like some of these students, it's probably not even recorded because they're new to the district, but we at registration have checked their residency when they came into the district, but it's not that residency form either, so the school's not recording it. But like that's the difference. The difference is in order to start at pre-K, you need to register and you need to provide a form. In order to, if you don't go to pre-K, in order to come in at kindergarten, you're providing a form. Once we don't have that anymore, right? Once you're registered in the district, it's a lot more difficult, as you see with the lunch forms, to get parents to provide the information to us. One of the things we are working on is automating all of our forms for next year. So we're hoping to use a system, either Family ID for everything, or to use, we've looked at Parent Square, and we're hoping that Parent Square has the ability to do these forms also. So if that happens, that will be part of the beginning of the year packet.
Okay.
And then it will be recorded too, because some of this I think is not recorded.
Yeah. I mean, again, I'm not asking someone to go door to door. I know we have that, but I'm just saying, parents out there, obviously parents out there care and do it, because some of these schools are at 1% and their staff is looking into it and they're doing it. I'm just concerned that at 72% outstanding for the high school, that's just, and if you were just put it in a packet and said, okay, you're on the band and you have to fill out, I don't even know, an instrument form or whatever, or you're on, and again, we've talked to legal about even if this is legal, but again, you have to fill out the papers and you're not allowed to play if you don't have them. So I can't see how hard it would be just to try to get these numbers, at least at 50%. In the pre-K, again, those kids are coming in. I think we can grab them right there and say, okay, starting in pre-K, let's get your paperwork in. So that's just my opinion. I know it's, we do pay for someone to do this as a job, and if people would just send in their papers, we would be okay, just like the lunch forms. Then we'd get more money if they sent in the lunch forms too. So, or we're losing money because people don't send in their residency and they live in a different city.
Just to add into what Jessica was saying, I think including like that residency form with, the forms that have to be filled out for any, athletic team would at least help for whoever's, reviewing these to prioritize those. And again, I'm not in those people's shoes to know if that would even be helpful. But just at least for, I would like to think that it would be. I'm not sure if that's something that could be considered, or to check to see if that would potentially be of any help, to have that as a way for them to know, all right, I have, X number of forms to check on, but let me prioritize those that are, want to play basketball or they want to play volleyball or something, to move those up on their priority list, and the ones that aren't really, truthfully saying, using a lot of the resources, we can kind of move them down to the, we'll get to them when we can. Because I realize it is a good amount of students that they have to go through.
But it is a lot of work, and I understand that. I do. I mean, I had to, you photocopy something, you attach it to a piece of paper, then someone has to look at it, and I definitely understand. But if we're gonna follow through with this, I think we need to, the superintendent said, maybe an electronic way may make a difference
Right.
next year.
I especially like that, and because it's just easier to keep track of it too in that sense. And like, if it's already in the system, you don't have to worry about inputting whatever you got back. So I do like that's already being looked into. Does the committee have any questions or comments on this subject?
Just one. So is there any kind of like incentive that encourages families to submit these papers? Like, does anything happen if they don't submit it?
No.
No, not at the high school and the middle school. I'm open to suggestions if someone would like to tell me what you would like us to do for people that don't return their forms. I mean, if you want to put it in a policy, if there's some penalty, and that's fine, but it's very difficult. Like I said, collecting lunch forms, getting parents to send the residency forms back, but if the committee would like to put it in a policy that you can't play sports or you can't play music, we'd be more than happy to enforce that if that's the committee's desire.
I think we have a good amount of things to consider there. I did speak with legal to make sure, to kind of get an idea of where he was at with us having potentially the ability to do what you just said, Superintendent, about limiting people. And there's nothing in state law that says we can't. It's the question of whether, like, if that's the way the route we want to go about it, because it is such an aggressive approach. But, you know, I'll leave that up to the committee.
I think it's less aggressive than fining a family.
Yeah.
Or kicking a student out because they don't live here. I do think it's a less aggressive. It is, if there's something other than schooling that you are interested in, field trips, chorus, band, sports, anything. If it's something besides the education, then maybe we do need you to fill out that paper and take that extra 5 minutes out of your time. If we're I'm only saying this all if we consistently see students who are not students of East Providence that we are paying for here. That's it. If this number was going up before, we had an officer, attendance officer, that's why this all came. So I just want to keep seeing the numbers and see where we're at. And I think maybe next year, if they start it, I just don't want to drag this on. I think it's the same conversation at this point.
Do you want to start drafting one?
Yeah, I think we
Then?
could work on it
We can
again and maybe see what happens.
Okay.
And see if it's effective and work on it, yeah.
At least where I'm at, I'm like, at minimum, I think including it in those packets.
Yeah, but I guess again,
But then,
it is a lot of work, so I want to put that into
Yeah.
effect, how much work we're going to put a staff member on, or a principal, or an attendance officer, or Ms. Clarkin. Like, I want to make sure that we're not overstepping, so
Yeah.
we definitely have to research it some more.
definitely.
Okay.
Anything else?
Can you bring that one up? Yeah. So we don't-
Yep. Can I, can I make a motion to move up number 3 under discussion?
Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
All that say aye?
Aye.
Sorry, that first was by Jessica.
Yeah, then Tony.
It'd been a while since we
I
had
made
to
the
move
motion.
up something.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, second was Tony, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, Max.
So, update on the bridge construction and its effects on the school district. I think everyone just wants to know how you feel.
So initially, when the bridge closure occurred, we were seeing significant delays in the time that buses were arriving at school in both the AM and the PM. We've made a lot of modifications to bus routes since the situation began, and most of our buses are arriving to school on time. We found the same buses are having issues. So typically, it's the buses that have to cross Pawtucket and Warren and Broadway and Warren. So any of those areas where the highway entrance ramp is where we see buses get stuck for a significant amount of time. Mondays and Fridays. I mean, we've been following traffic patterns since this happened in December. So Mondays and Fridays, we definitely see lighter traffic and less delays in our buses getting to school. Midweek can be difficult, and if there's an accident on the bridge, there are significant delays to the buses. So what we've done is we've moved students around on buses, so we've changed some of the bus routes. We've tried to, some of our buses have to cross the city. They're in specialized programs, so they have to go from Rumford to Riverside or Riverside to Rumford. What we've done is we've moved some of those students off those buses. We've had to add an additional van to our fleet, and that has helped. And we've worked very closely with the bus company. Mrs. Clocken and I met with the bus company last week to look at a few of the routes that we were still having delays on, and to make changes to those routes again. So yesterday was a Monday, so it seemed to be okay. Today we had a couple buses that were delayed sometime, not, it was better than it had been. It has, to date, this has cost the school district about $10,000 in overtime costs and in transportation costs by adding the van. We anticipate that is going to continue to rise. I have been in touch with the governor and Director Alviti. I did send them the information about the overtime costs and the cost for adding a van, and we are still waiting to hear back. The mayor also reached out to them with all of the cost breakdowns, so we anticipate we will hear something from them. We have worked closely with DOT. I'm on a regular text thread with one of the DOT staff about delays in the city, and they've actually worked to change some of the timing of the lights at those crossroads where we've had trouble with our buses. So, we've continued to be in contact with them, and we're continuing to monitor the bus situation daily. So we have a principals chat, and the principals will typically put in there if a bus is delayed, either in the morning or getting to school in the afternoon. Obviously, the issue becomes more at elementary, because if we back up at the high school, then it causes the buses to the middle school to be delayed, and then the elementary is the one that really feels the delay to school. So we continue to work on it every day. We hope we're in a better place right now, but again, anytime there's an accident in the city or anytime something causes traffic on the highway, it backs up all of the entrance ramps, which makes it difficult for the buses to get through. Weather. Anytime there's bad weather, we see delays.
Just generally, how's our attendance doing with our students, or tardiness? Has there been an uptick, or is it relatively the same? And then also, how's our staff doing?
That's what I was.
Yeah.
I commute to Cranston, and I live on South Broadway, and my patience is tested every day. So I can only imagine how their staff feels.
Yeah, it definitely.
If they're driving farther than that. So if you can kind of fill us in on where they are with that.
Yeah, so as far as attendance, I don't think that has had an impact on attendance. Even tardies, so I know at the high school level, if we see a backup in the city, we delay the time that we take attendance. So we give students and parents extra time, and we wait for the traffic to clear. If there's a line of traffic dropping students off, we won't take attendance until that whole line of traffic clears, so students aren't late when we know there's an issue. And like I said, I don't see it having an impact on attendance. We've had our attendance we're seeing improvements in attendance from last year. But really, our principals and our teams at the schools have worked very hard on our attendance initiative. It is having an impact on staff. I can speak for one of my directors, who there was an accident on the bridge, and a typical commute of what might be 50 minutes was 2 hours. So there are days when the commute is very long for staff. And again, I think most people know once you get on the highway, it's not bad. It's sometimes getting on the highway that becomes an issue. So we continue to monitor the situation. And it's not just our staff that's feeling it. It's people that are coming outside the city inside the city, that work outside the city. You know, everyone recognizes that it is an issue and that it does cause stress for the people that are having to deal with it on a daily basis.
Any additional comments or questions from the committee?
I just have a question. Are we logging how many, say, minutes or per day we're losing in education? Where we were looking to extend our day 10 minutes because they feel, you know, that extra 50 minutes per week.
Yeah.
Providence did, you know, try to get that hour. Is there anybody logging how many minutes per day these students are losing educational time?
Yeah, so we have a record of the time that the buses come in, and we've had a consistent thread since the beginning of this. So we could go back and like log. It's not all students, but it's been like consistently it was the same buses that we were dealing with. You know, so it tended to be the same group of students.
That's the key, because if we look at it, that group
Yeah.
of students is getting denied in education, we can look at it
Yep.
anyway. If those students are losing 10, 15 minutes
Oh, yeah.
per week, we as a school committee and a city has to do something about it. We just can't follow it along and say, it's happening. If they're losing, you know, any time, but we can't do much if it's, you know, a few minutes, but if it's becoming some sort of, you guys as educators say we have to do something about it, would that be extending the school day? We may have to go to the state and say, listen, we need funding because we got a plan to put in place because we're losing 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes per week with 30, 40, 50, 60 students. Here's a plan that we put together, but we need some funding for it. They have an awful lot of money to spend for traffic detail that flashes their lights to 11 o'clock at night. We need this money to educate these kids if they're losing, you know, time. So I think we definitely got to track the time.
Yeah, so like I said, the adjustment has been in the buses, the bus routes, you know, adding a bus or a van to the routes so that we can get students in on time. We're never going to be able to control when there's an accident on the bridge. Anyone
Right.
that's in the city knows what it looks like when that happens. You know, and that does cause delays for everyone, whether they're on a bus or whether they're driving. But I think we've made progress since December. And like I said, we've worked very closely with the bus company to really refine the routes and try to make sure that we reduce the number of buses that have to travel through that impacted area.
No, but at the end of the day, like you said, with that minibus, it should not just come down on the East Providence taxpayers, and it definitely should not affect our little ones.
Yep.
So it's like East Providence, it's a federal bridge, it's maintained by the state, but East Providence is, our small businesses, our taxpayers, I just found out when you mentioned that, another, say, $10,000 or $11,000, you know, we got to keep paying these bills, but we need help from the state. We
Yeah,
need
we're
help from the
submitting,
federal
I
government.
can guarantee you I've submitted all of our
Yeah, no,
expenses and we
and thank
continue
you for
to
that.
track them. We continue to track them daily and we're working with the bus company to keep track of all that and make sure that it gets submitted.
I'd also like to add that there is pretty consistent communication between the superintendent and the city when it comes to that. I think from what I've been able to see, and whenever I followed up too, it seems like any time that you've seen like that we need additional, you know, transportation for our students so that they're not, you know, sitting in a bus from, you know, Rumford to Riverside. Keeping track of all that has been essential, an essential way for you to keep track of, okay, where can we, you know, make adjustments, and what additional, you know, van in this case,
And
will
initially,
help alleviate, not solve, but alleviate at least, and hopefully prevent
Right.
a large amount of students being late when it can just be a smaller group,
Right.
if anything.
And when this first happened, I mean, the police department worked really closely with us to help get our buses through these traffic jams. You know, the first couple of weeks as we adjusted and made changes to routes, we were meeting with the city and all the department heads frequently to plan and to troubleshoot. So, I mean, it definitely has been a collaborative effort throughout the city to handle the situation to the best of our ability. And we just keep working, and if we see routes that are still having trouble, or times that are still delayed, we'll make additional changes. We talked about having another van that's available if we need to change some routes again, or pull students off of buses, and so that, you know, they can get to school on time. So we're looking at every option. We know, you know, we want students in school on time. You know, when they miss that morning routine, it does have an impact on their day. So we'll continue to work on that.
Do we know how much this situation has impacted our district financially to date?
So we've submitted $10,000 in costs. We anticipate, like, we're paying overtime on a regular basis, and we'll be paying for that additional van for the rest of the year. So I don't have an estimate yet on the overtime, but we've submitted for just over $10,000, I believe.
I do want to just add to what the superintendent has said, that everything is being very much tracked, all the expenses, right, superintendent, like everything. Correct. Obviously the charts and all that, but like the finances of it all, that is being tracked very detailed. And if we can continue to do that, that would be helpful. And if we can also have updates on that, if there are any additional vans or buses that we have to get, please let us know again. And if there's actually any additional expenses that we should, that we need to take a look at least in the meantime until we get that reimbursement. I think all of us up here will have no problem saying that we will also be pushing to make sure that we don't lose track of making sure we get reimbursed. And I know you're already following up with the governor and all that, so.
We've also worked closely with our senators and reps from the district, so they're aware of the situation also.
On that note, I attended a town hall meeting, and I was under the impression that our school district was getting some vans from the state. I was told by the senator and representative for the East Bay that they were under the impression that we were getting vans for us.
We added vans, and we're...
Right, but that's what we're paying for those.
Well, we're submitting for reimbursement on
Okay.
those.
But we didn't get any vans like that from the state?
No.
No, okay. Then I will follow up with them, because they were at the town hall meeting where they told me, after I gave my presentation about the schools, and that they asked, obviously, the people in the audience asked about the traffic and the effect on the schools. They had mentioned that there was supposed to be some vans, and I was under the impression they thought we had already had them.
No, and we had communicated with them, so it might have just been a miscommunication, where, like, we were working with a bus company to add vans to the fleet, but it wasn't coming directly from the state. We're asking for the reimbursement for that.
And I just have a question going further. If possible, do you think that the bridge impact will cause people to not apply in East Providence, or not come back? For an example, my doctor at Brown Physicians just stopped seeing patients in East Providence and is only seeing patients now in her Smithfield office. So do you think that will stop people from trying to come to our school district?
So I do think it will have an impact on hiring, but I also think that there may be people in the East Bay that aren't going to want to cross the bridge to go to districts on the other side of the bridge. So I think it's going to affect not just us. I think it will probably have a widespread effect on where people decide that they might want to work. Or, we had one paraprofessional that did cite that as the reason that they left, was the traffic.
I just want to say kudos to the staff, yourself, the teachers, the principals who have had to stay late because buses. I know that's happening, and it's sometimes really late. So kudos, for what you did with the opening of schools early for parents. I think that was great. I think we're all just trying to adjust and do what's the best we can.
Right.
Any additional questions or comments from the committee? Thank you. And next we have the special education program review of the report, and we'll be having the director present this to us. Are you going to be doing a PowerPoint presentation?
I have a
too?
few slides, yep, if you'd like to.
Sit in the audience?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
There we go. So just to review where we've been, the East Providence School District contracted with the American Institute for Research to conduct a comprehensive review of our special ed programming. And the purpose of the review was to examine quality and efficiencies of special education services and identify program needs. Next slide, please. Just to speak a little bit about the American Institute for Research, it's a nonprofit, nonpartisan behavioral and social science research, evaluation, and technical assistance organization based in Arlington, Virginia. And they conduct on a regular basis federal, state, local projects designed to improve outcomes for students with disabilities. I've worked with them extensively over my career as a special ed director, particularly with the National Center for Intensive Intervention, the Progress Center, and the MTSS groups. So they are known statewide for the work that they do and the solid programming that they provide to districts around the country. Next slide, please. The process was that AIR conducted this review over an 8-month period between April of 2023 and December. And along with the superintendent and other central office staff, we established a set of research questions to guide their scope of work. And it was completed using a mixed method in research to include review of documents, various websites that we use for our special ed programming, policies, procedures. There were 7 individual interviews with groups, with district leaders, EPLAC, parents. There was parent and staff survey. There was 7 focus groups. And there were IEP program document reviews, so the actual IEP quality, and site visits as well. Next slide, please. As part of the conclusion, we're provided with a report, and this summary actually defines these 4 areas for us, which is an overview of the questions that guided their evaluation activities, a description of the methods for each task, and the result, and current strengths that East Providence can leverage to take first steps in addressing the findings of the report, along with recommendations that are grounded in research and our knowledge of best practice. Next slide, please. So the 4 areas that guided those research questions were in the area of special ed policy, systems, and procedures, special education programming, instruction, and staffing, resources and professional development, and communication and family and community involvement. I'm not going to read all of the 12 questions, but they're broken down into 3 areas per the 4 major areas. Next slide. So I'm going to start with what were the findings in terms of the strengths of the East Providence School Department, and then we'll take a look at the recommendations. So overall, what was found is that East Providence enjoys an inclusive school culture, celebrating diversity and encouraging acceptance of all students, including those with disabilities. They found that the district leadership was supportive and engaged and committed to excellence for all students. Decision-making was data-driven. The availability of a range of support services, so a full array of services to include counseling, various therapies, and adaptive technologies. A staffing structure that includes special ed level education, special education leaders at each building, certified teachers, support staff, who can provide comprehensive instruction and support for students with disabilities. School leaders, staff, and parents who share positive attitudes and beliefs about students with disabilities and their ability to learn. Next slide, please. A collegial staff who respect each other, actively seeking more opportunities to authentically collaborate with and learn from each other. An engaged staff who highly value ongoing professional development. District leaders who prioritize thoughtful and intentional rollouts of new initiatives like MTSS that we are deeply involved with this school year. Parents of students with disabilities who want to be actively involved in the East Providence community. An infrastructure that supports translated materials for those students, families who speak languages other than English, and communication channels between teachers, staff, families, fostering a strong community that supports students with disabilities. So I think the common thread that you can read through there is good support from central administration to schools, to staff, for students, engaged in an inclusive community. Next slide, please. So the recommendations, so there are 12 strengths that they identified, and there are 10 recommendations. And one was to create a library of easily accessible materials for special educators with policies and procedures. This was well underway when the folks from AIR came to visit. And so that is in full swing and implementation already. Selecting a tool for monitoring fidelity of implementation of special ed with a focus on quality. Establish implementation guidelines for MTSS that explicitly define and consider the relationship between MTSS and special education. So we've worked together pretty extensively with Gen Ed and Lindsay Riley and the committees that we have working around MTSS. Creating a decision framework to assist IEP teams in making informed decisions. Providing high-quality inclusion opportunities for students. Next slide, please. Identifying role profiles for the various staff members, including special educators, teachers, paraprofessionals, and LEAs. Taking a look at scheduling at each level and adjusting to provide the opportunity for staff to collaborate. A menu of high-quality professional development for staff, and establish a plan for communication between district leaders and school staff, and provide EPLAC with resources and support to equitably engage and re-engage families of students with disabilities. So those are the overall recommendations, and in the next slide, we will begin our committee work. There was a call to all staff that was in the February newsletter asking for volunteers to participate in the work that this committee will do. Dr. Ferrand and myself will be meeting Friday, or is that Thursday? Thursday with the AIR to clarify some of the findings and recommendations. I do have some questions around some of the recommendations. So far, we've had 18 responses from special educators, related service providers, principals, paras, and central office folks to serve on that committee. We will be recruiting. The vast majority of the folks that responded were elementary, and I think that we do need to have representation from the secondary world. And we'll start with a kickoff meeting in March where we'll review the strengths and recommendations, identify the scope of work for the committee members, and establish subcommittees, subcommittees, and meeting schedule, and in turn create an action plan that would be weaved into the district strategic plan in time. That's it. Any questions? Okay.
Questions or comments from the committee?
You could make that 19 response to include principals, special educators, related services providers, para, and central office, because I will be sitting on that committee. Thank you.
Okay.
So what I wanted to kind of get gauge from the committee, like, is seeing if we're on board to do a workshop with Leslie as the director, and the superintendent to like be able to go through the report a little bit more detailed. I wasn't sure if there was any questions specifically that you wanted to have them go into more detail or put together before having a workshop. Just tossing out like a handful of ideas up to the committee. I don't want to just schedule it on my own and not have, you know, the interest of everyone else wanting to come in to do that. So just.
I don't know if it's my place, but I have a thought about that. And I'm wondering if that would not be wise to happen once we have the committee established, because there's so many details in the report. I foresee that the subcommittees would delve into the like areas and probably be able to report out fairly well on specific areas. It's just a thought that I had.
So I think potentially even at that point, depending on since you're going to be on that committee, Jessica, and having a separate workshop for that, like post, you know, that committee meeting.
So I'm just going to ask you guys, the paperwork that we received in the report that you went through, how many of you understood it? At this table.
Not very much.
Very much.
Okay.
It's very complex.
It's very,
And each one of the research questions is broken down really to the most minute factor. And you can get lost in that. And that's why right now we're just sharing the positive things to leverage and the recommendations. And then it would be up to the committee, I think, to really break down. So if, let's just say, for instance, there's an issue with communication. What it did was it broke it down to like each subgroup that answered. And so who is actually feeling like they need a different means of communication? So was it the paras? Was it the parents? You know, and so there's so much in that report.
So I think, again, up to the committee. If we would just want to start off like generally without even going down those details, and then later on scheduling a different workshop to like go into what the committee has identified as priorities. I'm assuming there'll be like tiers of like when things can be done, you know, sooner, and which ones will be more of a long-term, you know, project. I understand that won't be in a month,
Right.
likely maybe not two, but at least for us to kind of be able to discuss openly, like on if our interpretation of certain things in the report are correct, or maybe we may not be interpreting it correctly. And also just to have like a general understanding of what exactly you guys gathered from it, aside from the summary, because I read through it, it makes sense, but I want to know how you guys interpret, like how the administration has interpreted that, and that way you can kind of guide us in that sense, what priorities and issues that you guys see, at least at this early point, as items to start, addressing, and how you guys think we can address them as well. So, and again, I understand like it's still too early on to like know those details, but at least to kind of have an idea of where we are now, I think would be a huge
So
help.
what you're asking for is that all of us sit in a room and we just go over stuff and talk and ask questions. Because a lot of it is, what I want to ask is, if this report were to grade us on a rubric, which is how we do things, what would they have graded us? Like it doesn't say that anywhere. It doesn't. So like that's the thing. It's so intense to read and to go over. I think that's what we want to know. We want to know, and I am not speaking for them, but Jenny and I did speak, and I think that's how this audit happened, because we needed to know where we were, and we will never know where we are because that report was so intense, and I don't think any of us alone can figure out, okay, well, this communication with this mother. So I think that's where we're at. I think we want to know, where are we? Like, I know that we have, resources and communication and EPLAC, but really, where were we? Where are we? Where does this company that we paid thousands and thousands of dollars placing us? That's kind of dumbing it down. That's kind of what I want to know. Like, where is it placing us? Is it placing us like in a C, an A, or a B? That's what I want to know. Where is it placing us in certain categories that were linked to us? It doesn't give us that in the report. It's so, it's so detailed. And it can upset you because you don't see responses by people that you think you want, and we've discussed this. You think you get responses from certain people and you didn't get them, and so that doesn't really help you in the report. So I guess that's what I'm trying to say, because that's what it comes down to. Parents and educators and community members just want to know, where are we? Where are we?
Especially if you can also like explain what you mean by we were already working on this, or we were, had this plan in place prior to the report, and like, okay, what does that mean, and for which items are you talking about, type of thing. Because we obviously there are some things that were already being worked on, like in the inclusivity part, bringing in students into Gen Ed. It'd be nice to see, okay, what are the other things that we were already implementing? What are those exactly? It'd be nice to know. And I feel like having a workshop just gives us the ability also for you to like just give us examples. That's how I learn best, is just giving us examples, and now we can understand, hopefully, at least some portion of that report. Yeah. But I don't know. That's how I'm able to learn a lot more, is by talking it out and walking through it. So.
Can I just need to ask one more question. Is there a reason why we didn't include parents or a representative from EPLAC on the committee work?
I think that at this point, we've just sent it out to staff. Dr. Farina and I have talked about, being thoughtful about that. It just hasn't happened yet in terms, but I knew that you, had said that you wanted to be part of that. And we spoke about it, as well as a couple of community members.
Yeah.
But this was like to get, the bulk.
Okay, perfect. I like that. That makes me happy.
Was this company supposed to grade us, like what Jeff said, where we're at? So was this part
No,
of this?
Tony, it wasn't. I'm just saying that's how I want the professionals to help me.
There is no grading per se. There's only one mechanism through the Department of Ed where we're graded, so to speak, and they take, there are 21 different indicators, and you are either granted the right to operate or not. And we as a district meet the requirements in terms of those 21 indicators. So that's not a worry at all. I think the purpose here was to actually look at what we have. Are we utilizing it well? What do people need, both staff and students, and how do we get there? And that also needs to be recognized that this is not just a special education job in the end, or assignment, but that this has to be a work of the entire district. You know, Ms. Moore spoke earlier today about the equity, you know, and people need different things to reach the same end, but we do have to work together, both special education and general education, in order to achieve and have students achieve at their maximum potential.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any additional comments or questions from the committee? If you can, for that workshop, whatever additional, like, for example, like forms and stuff, like things that need to be filled out already, like forms that are provided by RIDE. It'd be nice if you know you're gonna hit upon certain subjects at the workshop, like please feel free to include like whatever forms or evaluations are used, and it obviously not filled out, but having those forms, I think, to provide some sort of like, I don't know, tangible understanding of what you're talking about, I think would be helpful for the committee as well. And if you think there's any additional documents or information you want to bring along, or even a presentation or whatever, please feel free to do that. Anything that you think that will help us kind of grasp a better understanding. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, public comments. We have Miss Chrissy Rossi.
I was ready to run.
Demo crew has arrived. All right, we'll just talk to you. Hi.
There you go.
So, it is what it is. Some days you gotta just improvise. So I want to read something to you. I did not come here tonight to berate anybody, be a pain in anybody's butt. I don't know if you guys are aware of what actually our bullying problem looks like. So, in case any of you were not aware, I'm going to improvise a little bit so that way nobody knows who I'm talking about. This came to me from a family. My student is in 6th grade at Riverside Middle School. The student gets bullied every day and at the bus stop. The student doesn't eat lunch at all at school because of the bullying. The mother of this student is scared that something is going to happen to this student. The student is a great person, received high grades before the bullying occurred, and now the grades are very low. Something has to be done to stop this. No matter how many times the parent reported this to the school, they told her what she wanted to hear, and of course, they do nothing. That's a direct quote. The child is very depressed, and they are worried about the child because the child used to be very smart and happy. And now the family prays every day that nothing bad happens to the child, or that the child doesn't commit suicide because of all of this. Help, please, capital letters at the bottom. I get stuff like this, and I haven't sat in these seats in 10 years, and I still get this stuff, and it breaks my heart. And I ask, what are we doing? So I go to the policy. I'm a big fan of writing a policy and following the policy. We haven't touched it, according to the website, since 2015. Clearly, the policy does not work. This is happening in I've gotten a message from a family, one end of the city to the other, Rumford to Riverside, with the exception of the preschool. How sad is this? Every school, bullying is always going to be a thing. It's what happens. But when we do not allow the children being bullied to stand up for themselves, we are creating lifelong little victims, is what we're doing. Those kids are afraid. They're afraid to do anything. How do you do this to children? So that's mostly what I came here to tell you. That we really, since you guys are going through policies, please check that one, because it doesn't work. And also, I heard you say that you're going to have some money left over. And if anybody had a project that they wanted to work on, I would suggest, because once again, more stuff comes to my phone, that you look no further than your facilities. Your mechanicals are falling apart by the day. I sent the superintendent a photo of the thermostat in some rooms, in some schools, 80 to 91 degrees. We have a box fan, or had, I haven't followed up, had a box fan on a bungee cord, keeping the boiler cool enough so it doesn't blow. So if you do have extra money, I implore you to please go for it with the mechanicals, because that's where you need it the most. Thank you.
I'll leave this here.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Next is action items.
Are there any discussions that the committee wants to have on any of these items? I think we've hit upon all of these tonight already in detail, but I just wanted to do a last check before I start asking. All right.
Jen, do you?
Just the EPLAC, I didn't go over the members when I stood up there, but I think they were discussed before you, and they're in your packet.
Yep.
I really highly suggest you look over that list. There are 20 names.
Would you like me to read through the names?
No, you don't have to.
Okay.
No. They have been read over before.
Well, I meant like in public. Well, it's, oh, okay. I just wanted to see if
No.
we wanted to acknowledge, people that were taking,
People that are
the time
aren't
to make sure.
aren't
I
there
know.
to be acknowledged, unless it's an election year, and then they do. But yeah, no, they don't. They're there to be there.
Okay.
Jen,
I'll-
the only comment that I want to make on the alternative learning is that please, we don't put because like I said, I look at numbers a different way, I guess, but if we may be bringing in, 9, 10, 15 more students back into the district with this program, we can't put no more pressure on the staff that we got. It just, I'm gonna die with the point of saying we got great people, but when you put too much pressure on them, they're no longer great in the district. The whole district suffers. So I hope we can pull this off. I know there's gonna be some money savings, but at the end of the day, I just think if we can get somewhat of a little, report how this program's gonna run, who's gonna staff it, not just conversation, because this, as Jess said earlier, we did the program on the third floor in the old building that was sitting in.
I didn't say anything.
You know what, I don't have a problem saying it. It got thrown on us, and it was a time-sensitive thing, and it was actually sickening. It was actually sickening, this program. It was to basically hide two individuals. The door was left undone. These kids can come and go this is a true story. She's sitting down at the end, and
So,
we just
Are we
can't.
talking about the old alternative?
Yeah,
program?
the old one
Okay.
we did, but.
So I want us to focus on.
No, I know that, but the problem is the
on
whole thing was done the same way. Just nobody questioned it. We didn't know what was going on. It was said it was gonna be one way, and it came out to be another way. That's what I'm saying. If we can get something in writing, how this program's gonna be laid out, who's gonna staff it, then we
Yeah.
as a committee
All
can hold
the-
people
yeah.
accountable to it. Without
the
that
necessities.
information, it's up in the air.
So I think we can definitely, once it's starting to be put together, we'll make sure to, or I myself
Through
will
the
also
chair, I
ask
had already
for there
asked
to
the
be updated.
superintendent all of this. I asked for all that before. during discussion, and she agreed, so just
Yeah.
want to re-emphasize.
So we'll all make sure that is communicated to us. I'm on board with making sure that, this, I don't really doubt that it won't, that we'll have the same issues, because it is, the people here are very much different from back then. But we'll definitely follow up on making sure that we have a report once everything is finalized. Is there anything else on any of these items? All right. I'll entertain a motion to approve the 2023-2024 EPLAC members. Again, that's in our packet.
Make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All that say aye?
Aye.
Any nays? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve the fiscal year 2022 audit report. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second? Second. All that say aye?
Aye.
Approved. Are there any nays? I'll entertain a motion to approve the Army JROTC program pending student interest. Okay. Okay.
I will make a motion.
Let me just fix that. I'll entertain a motion to approve the Army JROTC program. That's why I was a little bit confused earlier.
I'll make that motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All that say aye?
Aye.
Aye. Are there any nays? I'll entertain a motion to approve the alternate learning program.
I will make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All that say aye?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. Are there any nays? Okay. Next item, please.
Next item is announcements.
Girls hockey playoff is Friday. Portsmouth Abbey.
What time?
7 something.
Okay.
I'll find it. Saturday as well, 7. It's on my Facebook page.
Are there any
6
additional?
o'clock, I lied.
Sorry, 6.
Okay, got it.
Any additional announcements from the committee? All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All that say aye?
Aye.
Aye. Motion to adjourn is approved. Have a good night.
See you next at the next one.
Oh, I know. Right?
Good luck if you hit the traffic.